Welcome back to the show. Well, now the way people date or what a relationship even looks like today is extremely different than, let's say, when our parents or grandparents got together.
One big reason, social media. It's great to keep people connected, right? But what about when it actually gets in the way of the relationships that are the most important to us? That's when we bring in our relationship expert, Kat.
Well, hello.
Yes, and you know, that's funny that this whole topic started with, I asked you about, I had seen more and more of this trend of people sharing Facebook accounts, and I was wondering your take on that.
It's really interesting. A lot of it is kind of a new trend.
Yeah.
You know, it's the new moving in together. It's the new, you know, I don't know if even our younger generation will remember what pinning is, but you know, you wear the pin or you get the ring or, yeah, it's kind of a formal putting it out there of your relationship. And there's another way that it could also be used in a sense that we share so that we can see everything, so that we can monitor everything. So, you know, all of these things are like factual and fine on their own. And then how you use them, how your intention comes through is really what we need to talk about.
It's very interesting because I never considered sharing a Facebook account with anybody, especially my partner, but what are some of the pros and cons that come with that?
Well, sharing them, maybe they just kind of share the same kinds of things. You know, lots of people write blogs and they have similar content, and maybe they will post on Twitter and different things, and it works for them to kind of build things up. But personally, maybe they, you know, use the same email account so they can get 2 memberships of Netflix or, you know, 2 places to watch or things like that. Maybe it makes it easier to check on recommendations or, you know, Amazon Prime or all these different things that couples could share, or maybe even bank accounts. I mean, we haven't talked about that specifically, but in the practical sense, sometimes having a password or we're talking sharing a Facebook page, it really just makes it easier. Like my parents, for example, my mom does the Facebook and dad kind of sees it. They're not sharing a page necessarily, but that's how you get to my dad.
Okay. Yeah, so your mom's Facebook page.
It's through my phone, yeah. So if you want to know what's going on with them, you need to look at hers. But a lot of times people will put those together in tricky ways because, you know, all of the media outlets, the social media outlets, they kind of don't want you to do this. So it's tricky, but it works for them to be able to update. You know, the downside is, you know, you don't really get an individual voice. You never know kind of who you're talking to at whatever point if it's a shared page.
Yeah.
You know,
I think whatever works for you, I guess.
Right.
And now that we have the Facebook pages, whether it's together or separate, now we kind of have to worry about what are we sharing or how much are we sharing about our relationship with everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that's kind of an answer to both of those is being able to have both accounts. Then you can kind of share to each other, and in that way, it's a pro for your relationship. You share to each other. It might be annoying to your friends. And so then we talk about how do you hide it or share, and what do you share? What kind of privacy settings do you want? Are you getting comments from people that you'd rather not get? Are there people that are kind of volatile in your friend network that comment on things you wish they wouldn't? I mean, there's lots of stuff to do there. Do you need to create a privacy setting for them? Do you need to consider what you're sharing? You know, are you sharing with the intention of getting some sort of feedback, or are you just sharing to have it out there and you don't want anyone to comment? You know, you kind of have to think about all of these things.
Well, and I think you touched on something really important there. You know, my fiance, good-looking guy, stunt man, does all these jobs, and then there are these women that he meets, and you know, maybe I don't always love the things that they comment and the pictures that they post. I mean, how do we deal with that kind of jealousy?
God, there's so many facets to that. Okay, so for you or for the person feeling like, hey, now, I think talking about it is a good place to start, you know, making sure that you're not feeling too triggered by it and saying, hey, this kind of looks like it's putting out there that you're involved with all these people. I wonder what you think about it. So there's a great place to have a discussion there. Sometimes maybe the comments could be directed, you know, from the person to say, my wife thinks I'm hot too, thanks. You know, like, I don't know, ways that you can kind of put out there, hey, that's a boundary of mine. But a lot of times you don't want to have those kinds of interactions, like for Facebook, say, in the comment thread. You might want to contact them in a private message and say, hey, you know, I'm married, or I have a girlfriend, or this is feeling a little bit awkward, so I would like to take that down a notch. You know, lots of different ways to handle it, but also within your relationship to be able to talk about it, try to feel that anxiety that might come up if you're feeling, I don't know if this is too big of a word, but like threatened in any sense, you know. Those are great places to kind of feel out where you are at and if something needs to change or not.
And you know what I've noticed, I know that Facebook is doing a thing where it's telling you what happened 1 year ago and 3 years ago and 4 years ago. And I'm finding that all of these guys that I thought I was just friends with have all defriended me. And I'm assuming that's because, you know, they're in a relationship and now they don't want them to be friends with girls. So what about being friends with like exes?
Yeah, again, a personal preference thing. Again, checking out your motivation. Are you kind of keeping your sights out and open, checking the radar because you're not sure of what you're in? Or are you really committed to this connection? And if so, how is that making that better? If not, maybe you need to check with yourself about which is most important. Because I think you can have both. But if your relationship isn't feeling stable enough for that, it's a really good question to say, okay, what's the priority here? Is the priority to maintain all these connections or to put my energy into connection with the person that's most important to me?
That is a great thing to end on.
So great. I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you so much for bringing this topic to our show because I think a lot of people will benefit from this.
Yeah.
So Kat, we look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
And to get more tips to optimize your relationships, just call Kat at 906-3392 or go online to robycounseling.com.
Heather, I think